Hey people, I'm here and I'm just here to, good afternoon. I'm gonna talk to you about how to gain power. So, I guess that's the purpose of this video. I'm just quickly throwing that out there. So, in essence, all you need to know from this video, I could cut it off here after this, is to gain power, you need stats. And the fastest way to get stats, whether multiplied or static, are mutates, synergy, skill levels, astra levels, fossils, glyphs, monster levels, which are like these levels, awakening, skins, and I guess this new addition of Gaia, resonance is another way to get stats. Now, all of those are forms of either multiplied stats or static stats. So you can stop watching if you understand that. Otherwise, let me get into a little bit more detail and why I chose to say them in that order, so to speak. So, you've got your skills. Or I guess no, I did mutates first. So mutates, alright, are basically half glyphs, alright? Think of them like half of the efficiency of a glyph, but you can have 35 of them, right, per unit, which is, it adds up to be a lot. It's about, this is a level 4 glyph, this is a level 4 glyph, this is a level 4 glyph, and it just kind of adds up and adds up and adds up. The reason why you use mutates for your stats is because, well, you're limited on glyph spots, and this is the next best place to kind of get that into. So the reason why I'm using so much move speed is basically on like all my units have move speed. A lot of people say the versatility is better for different units, right? So that's why they all mutate Constitution and then like work on whatever because every unit needs Constitution. I find that move speed or hockey, the one that the unit needs the most, is the most efficient. And almost all units already use one stat or another, and they have a predefined job, right? So just be good at that job, and then you won't need to remutate a monster. The only exception I can say is the Ancient, because you might reset it, right? And if you reset like an Ultimus who gets all speed, or like a Kensei, into something like a Lunaria, well, then all those speed mutates are fucking useless, and you'll want, health. So if you do reset often, go like health on these, otherwise move speed everywhere. Honestly, if I could make all of these move speed, it would be great, because then I wouldn't need any like move speed glyphs. As you can see, I don't. You can see his stats, he's pretty tanky, he's got a fair amount of damage, all his damage is boosted. It makes sense to not waste your glyphs. Also, just like looking at glyphs, right? If you look at all the way down to the bottom, right, you get 30 attack from a mutate, or 60 of a glyph. So it essentially +1, right? This +1 is equal to half a glyph, except in the cases of hockey, which is 36, right? So it's about 55%, 60%, whatever. And move speed, right? Where you get 20 instead of half, which is 18. So you're getting 2 extra move speed, which increases your power just a little bit, but if you do it across all your units, then it's, a little bit more. So that's how you gain power fast, right? Is mutates. Your second thing is synergy. So as you can see, I'm slowly building up my repertoire of these IV monsters, which will help your Gaia, which is a new feature. I'll make a video on that soon. As you can see, your synergy stats. On top of that, you need, they just give you stats flat, right? As you can see, I'm missing a couple. I don't have Bruno Mars or Aerie in here, but all the rest I have, so that's good. And stuff like that. So try to collect one of each and get those numbers up. Try to get each one to 40, then once you're maxing out and you have too much food, go to 50, etc., etc., because the higher and stronger they are, the more they give, as you can see here, right? Sloth gives 50%, but he's still like, higher in terms of efficiency. This is worth a 220, so to speak, right? Compared to this 155 or 172. So as you can see, the stronger they are, the better. And once you max out all your units, That's, you know, a great thing to have, is just leveling up all your other units. So like there's an infinite amount, so to speak, or a very large amount of stuff you'll need to cap out anyways, which should be about, you know, 250k power if other servers are, you know, a good indication of power caps. Fairly static, or sorry. But yeah, so the next thing you've got is skills. Skills are like percentage increase in stats, right? Think of this like, well, every 3 seconds, right? 55% of your constitution is given back to you. Why 55% of constitution? Because, well, um, this is times 10, right? Constitution is equal to 10 times, or 1/10 of your health. Then otherwise, like other than that, so you just times this by 10, it's 55, easy. That's how much it heals you, right? So you can just calculate that. It'll be half and then 5%, which is good. And all these skills give you like percentage increase to your stats. So that's important. And it gives you a lot of stats if you max these things out. That's why like my power is so high, is because I have a max, or almost maxed out, purple skill on Sloth, and all the rest I'm basically maxing out quite nicely, except for this one. I need to get that 80% heal reduction because it really helps, and I'm going to try to max out Vulcan's stats as soon as possible because they're so important. But I'll do a different video on which things are important to max out. Like, nobody gives a fuck about Eclipse, right? Nobody gives, you know, two shits about, you know, this heal. Unless you're using Ultimus, then it's pretty good. But you know what I mean? Different situations, different things, right? Nobody cares about this. Like, Assassin isn't there for damage, so it's just there to boost my power kind of thing, right? And, you know, that power comes with stats, but make sure you remember that stats in the wrong place mean nothing. And what that means, all right, is let's say you're running 3 truth on this guy, right? Or let's say 3 truth on Vulcan, because this is a very common example. 3 truth on Vulcan, you do so much damage, right? Let's say 3 level 7s, that's 385, 700, about 1,100, 1,200 of truth damage over time. Then they sanctity it, right? All of this truth stat is wasted. It means nothing, alright? Because its purpose, this Falco punch, dealing 10 times that amount, is suddenly reduced to like maybe 2 or 3 of that until it gets cleansed, right? So you need to be very careful where you put your stats, right? If you put hockey on a ranged unit, for example, that's just wasted stat, because it's not going to do anything unless it's on something like Daylight, right, where you can actually make use of it. So that's just an important example to note. Wasted stats mean nothing, right? If your Sloth dies immediately, all the stats that you have on this guy, so all of this power, might as well be reduced or taken out of the equation when you're trying to determine if you can take somebody. And that's why, right, I guess, that's the main reason why when you do world events, you're able to do world events that are much higher level. Just one second. But yeah, so yeah, so you can see that, you know, you've got 57k power. I beat this out of lower power. I'll release a video on how to do that kind of thing. But the point is, let's say you kill a unit before it can do anything. That unit is wasted stats, right? So that's just like an important thing to know. Next, you've got Astra levels. Astra levels are just static, right? They give you a certain amount of power, but they actually multiply your stats, right? So they're kind of deceiving. 2.7k power is like nothing, but the benefits that you get are worth way more than 2.7k power. Like a 25% increase to your damage is like 25% increase attack. I don't think that affects truth, right? So that's like crazy. So suddenly you might as well count all the power that you're getting from attack as 25% increased while this is on an enemy. But to, you know, counterpoint that point, I guess, is that if they have a cleanse, then this means nothing because all your damage is going to somebody who's cleansed, right? Then these stats are like kind of useless. That's why the power is pretty static on these, right? Right, this is like, increased stat. This just basically talks about the power over your enemies. So like, it's not too important to account for Astra power, but the power they bring to your team, right, in terms of raw utility and stuff, is much higher than their perceived power. And this is like all about power, this, I guess, video. Your next thing is your fossil. So your fossil, the reason why this is behind Astra is because fossils are kind of hard to use, right? As you can see, I'm a slacker and a piece of shit. I don't have anything maxed out. This is a pretty ugly fossil, but it's getting there. All right, give it some time, and it'll surely turn up pretty well. My main has a much nicer one, obviously. But these are static stats, and these are multiplicative stats, right? And they apply everywhere except for basically pillars, as far as I know. So, these bonuses that add to your units just increase your power, right? And increasing your power means you can allocate the right stats to the right places, which multiplies, in essence, your growth. So, an easy example of this is, let's say you're fighting Batman 5, right? And you suddenly break the threshold of, this number minus all the wasted stats of all the units that you can kill without them doing any damage to your team, right? Should be, about 60, 70k, right? If you like, negative, 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 and your skills are positive, 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 you can equal that gap, right? Just by having your stats in the right places and making sure that their stats are in the wrong places with, Kieran, Sloth, right? Their stats are reduced. Their healing, let's say they have a Suzaku and you punch somebody for negative healing, well, all that healing on that one unit is useless, right? So it's hard to gauge power versus viability because of that, but you should get a good grip of it the more you play, right? So it's like, and I think in my last video, like, this guy used to be super hard for me to kill, but now he's easy, right? Because his stats are in the wrong place, right? Like, sure, he's using power on this guy. Why is he using sanctity? That makes no sense, right? Enchanter's attack speed is so slow that he never gets hit by a Kieran, so it's just wasted stats, right? This power doesn't mean that power anymore, right? Because his attack speed is 0.4, so the earliest he's going to trigger with 4 attacks is around like 10, 11 seconds. So why would he run Sanctity, which still takes 4 seconds, right? It's just stupid, stupid stuff. This is smart, right? It's every 4 seconds, because he triggers at 3 seconds or 4 seconds, right? Every 3 seconds, and he gives an AoE thing. So like that makes sense, right? The truth doesn't make sense on this character. I guess he's a little bit behind because he's using power or something on someone else. Probably this guy, yeah. He's got powers on him, but so he's losing out on this kind of stat, right? He's losing out on the Sanctity only triggers and is only useful on the second use of Kieran, right? So when you use your Astra, it'll only trigger on the second one. So if you see me fighting this guy, I mean, he's pretty good in an arena, but he used to be much better when he was running a snipe comp because it was anti-meta. As you can see right now, my dude's kind of slow. But when this guy punches that guy, right, he's got this little debuff right there, this red one, that says his healing sucks. So minus that stats from his power for like 5 seconds, right? And I guess it's the person who can keep their stats in the right place and the highest amount that wins a fight, right? Like, this hurts, right? That's good attack, but this can't heal. As you can see, we're about to trigger the second. Oh no, we already did. Never mind, you didn't even see it, but this guy cleansed and knocked me back. That's why I got cornered. Also, he's got a ton of push, but the push doesn't really mean anything, right? You can see I'm bouncing back and forth. It's hurting me. He's slowing me, but it doesn't do anything, right? His stats are in the wrong place. They're not doing anything for him. Me being over there without him having any real AoE other than, Enchanter, which triggers like never, doesn't really mean anything, right? He doesn't have an Ultimus or somebody who capitalizes on that, backline, because almost all AoEers, except for like Midnight, hit more, like hit everybody no matter what. Like there's Sloth, there's Bruna, they hit the front lines and usually some of the back lines, and Channer as well. So just like a basic rant on like that, I guess. Next for gaining power is glyphs. So, you know, the stronger you are, the faster you progress, and it's literally momentum. So that's why I recommend to people if they're first starting out and they want to dump money in, take all their money and buy equal parts weekly and equal parts monthly bonuses and just ride the wave, and you will accelerate faster than anybody else who wastes their gems on static increases, right? So I think I have the monthly on this account, but other than that I don't really have much in ways of money. I think I did buy a $1 deal as well at some point for like a Visage, but that's not a huge deal. As you can see here, right, you get more spores the stronger you are. So you want to be stronger so you can get more spores so you get further faster, because these change, right? These numbers, right? You started at like what, 5? Yeah, those numbers change, but you know, the cost to awaken doesn't, right? They're static. So the faster you can meet this quota, the stronger you'll be, which means the faster you'll be able to meet, you know, the quota to beat these numbers, right? This, which gives you faster access to all the best stuff, right? So your glyphs, which I've beaten, you know, I've rolled, like, I think the other day I just got a free Sanctity 6, right? Because I was doing that one world stage for the Karma glyphs, Stranger Danger, at max difficulty, and the reason why I was able to do that is because I maxed out my Sloth right away, and I had the stats in the right place, because I think this guy is the, you fight a BMO, and BMO is useless if he can't hit you, so you just knock him back until you win. It's really easy, and like, there's a lot of comments like, this is so easy, right? Daylight with Haki, 4 ranged, including Sloth and Armstrong, right? You just knock him back, because people know that units don't do anything are basically just time, and time is, you know, on your side with this game. I mean, it's kind of a given. You put your time into this game. That's why you play it, right? And that's a thing that all games kind of take for granted, is that your time is not kind of like their commodity, right? That's a granted. If you're going to play their game, you're going to be investing your time. So you want to make best use of that time, is what I'm trying to say, your efficiency. Next, after glyphs, which, I mean, I only level mine to about 7, and then I stop and I start awakening stuff with my resources, because gold is a limited resource, and it's painfully limited, especially when you start awakening, and like, you're going to hit everybody awakening at around the same time, right? So you're just going to be really strapped for it. So I recommend buying 20, you know, 150k for 20 every day. Even when you don't need it. But like, look, soon I'm going to be able to birth an Allura within 2 weeks, right? Within a couple of weeks, I'll probably be able to awaken Vulcan. And by that time, I'll also be able to awaken Death Star, Sloth, and Daylight. So I'm going to be crunched, right? And these things will just come along in a second wave later, right? It doesn't have to be now, and it doesn't really matter. But that's kind of like a lesson that you should, that should be something that you guys take into account. Next, after glyphs, are monster levels. Monster levels give you, you know, constitution and attack, and that's about it. Like, if you look at this guy, right? Constitution, attack, you feed him a green, con, attack, and that's about it. But that's still static stats, right? And everybody needs constitution. Not everybody needs attack, right? So make sure that you kind of get the difference, and like, monster levels are just a good way to increase your power. That's why everybody does, you know, +4 levels mutates on your Ultimus. I just didn't want to waste any more gold, so I stayed with this, and it, you know, I was just experimenting with it. It works pretty good, but yeah, you should, you know, that's important. Next, you should watch out for Awakening. Awakening gives you basically higher stats per level, right? So I guess Reconstruct also increases your stats, right? So if you reconstruct, you might get them to a higher percentage, something really good. That's a percentage increase to your power, really. But so is awakening, right? When you awaken, it just gives you a much higher stat. 9716, right? 9716, that's a huge increase. It also gives you a base increase of certain stats, right? Which you don't get from levels, right? 190, 712, there's no increase for this guy, but it will increase your per level retroactively. So that's how that works with like Death Star and like Awakening. It's a percentage increase to your stats. Not only that, but it's also a percentage increase to your stats in the sense that, you know, you're getting a 5th skill. So it gives you a higher cap as well. Finally, skins. Skins are tiny, static ones. You know, 16 attack isn't a lot, but it can add up, you know. 16 attack is half a mutate, which is a quarter of a glyph, right? But if you get a crazy skin like this, then, well, that's 10 mutates or a level 5 glyph, right? So that's a lot. And then this adds, and this adds, and this adds, and slowly, you know, you just get really strong, you know, from that. It gives you power, and it's a good thing. So make sure to watch out for those. You usually get those once you have all of the births that you can get out of this shop, Fable and Jan Snow. Then you just buy those. Then you just buy skins, right? Because Jan Snow and stuff are higher on the tier list, I guess, that I mentioned at the beginning. They give you synergy, which is much higher, right? Let's see if I have a birth. Yeah, Sloth. So Sloth as a birth, right, gives much more than just this. He gives basically double this in a stat. So 220 versus one skin, which is 160. It's much better to just get a unit who can also grow. You can't really grow your skins. Finally, we have Resonance. And Resonance is a percentage increase to your stats, except for this one where it's flat. So I would recommend, you know, getting... I think I'm going to be rushing this one on my main account first, because range is a thing that I put on all my monsters, so might as well cut down on, you know, 1 or 2 mutates across my team and put those towards, you know, vanilla glyph increases or something, right? Same with this. It's like I can mutate less speed if I have a percentage amount increase. So that's why I'm doing those. These are pretty cool too. But it's just important to know and to note, I guess, both of those, that your stats are directly tied to your power, and your power is only kind of like a jumbled cumulative amount. It doesn't account for a lot of your, I guess, synergy, or if you have the stats in the right place, so to speak, right? Because I could have 800,000 power, let's say, and all of it was in hockey, and all my other units had 1 stat of everything. And of course I'd lose every fight, because all my stats are in the wrong place. And that's the kind of point I'm trying to make, that stats aren't everything, stats aren't everything, therefore power aren't everything, or power isn't everything. And it's important to know that, just because if you don't believe in that, you're most likely going to fail. I have a lot of people come up to me on my main who are very, very strong players, right? They have, like, there's a guy named Coco, he's Chinese, he doesn't understand the stat system too well. So he puts, you know, he's got like level 10 glyphs compared to my level 8. He's around the similar power as me, but he gets destroyed every time. And the reason why is because his stats are in the wrong place, right? I think he had like speed, power on his Vulcan. He had like truth, shelter, and regen or some shit on your like Sloth. It's like, well, that's not going to do anything for you, that regen, right? And stuff like that. You know, I think he had regen on Death Star as well. So those things will help you, but they can also hurt you if you're using them wrong, right? So I guess that's how you gain power. Hope you liked the video. Let me know if you have any questions, and I probably did forget something, so comment down below if you have any questions or concerns, and I'll be happy to help you. Also, yes, my Explorer is kind of low. I've been lazy about it, but that's fine. I'm doing okay. And cheers, guys. I'm heading out.